Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. So the Earth changes are rolling on, Cindy.
Oh, indeed they are.
So we see we have over 10,000 forced to evacuate. There's multiple dam failures in central Michigan.
Yeah, this is really strange. It's very curious and concerning.
It is. But remember, remember what Casey said about the Mississippi River being the Mississippi Sea. The Gulf of Mexico emptying into the Great Lakes emptying into the Gulf of Mexico. And every single one of those earth change maps always shows a lot of flooding and a widening, in that area all the way, from the Great Lakes on down to the Gulf. And we've seen tremendous floods.
Yeah, and you know what? Things aren't slowing down. The weather's just getting weirder.
So, you see these record flood levels. And take a look, see if this is still going there. This is a breach, an obvious breach, and it's just pouring out. That's massive. And, the likelihood of this becoming more and more regular is growing as we have all the conditions going into effect. As we talked about, the storms are stronger. The numbers are showing that. There's a lot more moisture in the atmosphere. We have a lot more volcanic activity and suspicions of volcanic activity going on as well. And earthquakes in very curious places.
There are, things are, they're gonna forever ramp up, but it feels like a frog in warm water, kind of.
Yeah, it's
We're
well,
seeing what's happening.
I'd say the water's pretty hot now, and we're. It's going to get hotter too. It's coming to that rapid boil time. Michigan governor wants investigation of the failures that have caused such devastating floods. And, of course, this is, state of emergency that's underway here. So the Tittabawassee River is expected to fluctuate about 35 feet for the next several hours before starting to drop around midnight. Down in Midland, the city of about 41,000 people downstream of the dams, it could be eventually under 9 feet of water. So, wow. I have seen in some places that I've lived where they've intentionally flooded, and abandoned little towns to make dams and stuff. Lake Murray in South Carolina, there is one such case. There's actually a little town down at the bottom of there, and there's other ones as well, but this is obviously not intentional flooding.
No, it's not intentional flooding. It's something to really take note of, though.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that, there might not be some responsibility for why they were breached, lying with some people or agencies. Dow Chemical Company says no threat to residents or environmental damage. So Midland is home to Dow Chemical Company's headquarters and manufacturing complex. Company said Wednesday its facilities were safely shut down, except for those needed to manage chemical containment. After the floodwaters were mixing with a containment pond, the company and the U.S. Coast Guard activated emergency plans, Dow said in a statement. The pond is used for stormwater and brine system and groundwater remediation. The material from the pond commingling with the floodwaters does not create any threat to residents or environmental damage, so they say. No employees were hurt as well. We're just going through a lot of stuff right now. Of course, we still have the lockdown going on in so many areas. Michigan's one of the hardest hit states, and there's been an awful lot of anger in Michigan towards the governor there, of whom, it still seems Joe Biden is likely to pick, perhaps as the VP, and at 70-something years old. Can he serve 4 years if he ever got in? Although I would not put money on Biden winning. That's just my feeling. I just don't see it.
No, I don't see it either. Not at all.
And then we have Cyclone Amphan, and it hit India and Bangladesh. We were talking about that. It has left a trail of destruction, and you had over 3 million people in both countries that had been evacuated. This is the first named storm of the 2020 North Indian Ocean cyclone season. and the first super cyclonic storm in the Bay of Bengal since 1999. And 2020 is the second year in a row featuring a super cyclonic storm. The previous year seeing only Kiara in the Arabian Sea. So up to 118 mile an hour winds. There was a storm surge of 13 to 16 feet. And this is what we were talking about yesterday too, because Bangladesh is kind of like, well, it's like New Orleans, is the way it's set up. Very low lying, prone to flooding, and as Weed Me, yes, a shout out to Weed Me at the channel, is always saying, New Orleans, you gotta watch out, y'all. Mother Nature's not fooling around, and you could see the storm coming on in there. If we look over here, you can see what the winds look like.
That is insane. That's, I wouldn't want to be standing out there.
No, I think like little Sassy would just get picked up and blown away. She's less than 10 pounds.
Yeah, she would. She would be like gone.
So North America has set 233 new all-time monthly low temperature records in May so far, and only 18 record highs. So is the lack of sunspots, the obviously lowering of the magnetosphere, which we're going to take a look at something a little bit later. All this is just adding up, and we had snow up in this year in Nevada, and that's pretty late to have snow, and the temperature swings have been insane in the West.
Yeah, they really, really have. It was like so cold. I mean, it's weird.
Snow at Lake Tahoe, and don't forget about all the quakes, that we saw up around Tonopah in Nevada, around Area 51. Well, they had snow last night up there as well. Look at that. It's gorgeous, isn't it? I mean, to me, it's beautiful, it's peaceful, it's wonderful, but I couldn't take 6 months of that. And here we are in May. Snowing, but not sticking. That's up in Lake Tahoe as well. I-80 in Kingvale. Pretty wild stuff. And then look at the size of some of these hailstones. We were talking about the the ones that were shaped like that nasty virus that's going around. But look at the size of that one. That's like a melon. They could do a lot of damage, as we see. And when you have these rapid and violent changes in temperature, this increases the possibility of melon-size hail. As we see, so many windows broke out there. And taking a glance at what's going on, at first I thought, oh my God, it looks like another 6.5, but when we zoom in, we recognize, no, it's just a ton of quakes. 353. So, compared to yesterday, this is increasing. This is going up. And so it doesn't appear to be over yet.
No, it's something is still sort of kind of rolling around under there.
Yeah, you guys, one of you sent Mary Greeley's over to me, so I was watching her, and she does a wonderful job, and she just sounds like such a sweetheart. And she was just saying that she was feeling like the energy is building, or perhaps it's going to deflect westward. And we know it's over here, as you see right there. That's part of a caldera of a supervolcano, and we don't want any reoccurrence of that going off. That's for sure. And we're gonna keep an eye on this. I was looking. The biggest ones I saw were around 4 or in the low 4s, but 356. These are increasing. Even when I started to put this video together over an hour ago, I think it was 320s. So, energy is still building. Keep an eye on it. You see swarming by the geysers. Of course, we have stuff going on at Ridgecrest as well. So when you think about it, there was the rumors that this was perhaps a new supervolcano forming over here. What's going on here so close to an old one? And then, of course, we got Yellowstone as well to keep in mind. You see there are a handful over at Salt Lake City. There's another little swarm that we've been watching over here as well. And up in Idaho, we still have activity too. So we're watching this situation and ready to feel some shaking again, possibly. Definite volcanic uptick around the world. Multiple eruptions to 45,000 plus feet. Direct cooling, right? And we're talking about those record lows. Ultimately, the temperature is going to be going down. Ultimately, it's going to be going down. And even though we still have all sorts of things, going on with record highs, and Casey himself talked about the Arctic ice melting so much, and how about Antarctica too? Because if we have a lot of activity on the western Antarctic area that's volcanic under the surface, but if the eastern shelf ever went, we would be in trouble, and you'd have massive sea level rise. And we have some lightning strikes again, this time killing 85 sheep and goats in India. A single bolt hit right on the herd of sheep and goats. That's just horrible.
So sad.
And this is very concerning and something to watch. So most of you are probably familiar with the South Atlantic Anomaly. It's an area of basically, it's a very, very low protection zone. So a lot of radiation is getting through this area. This is something that we've been watching, and scientists have been watching. Over the past 200 years, Earth's magnetic field has lost about 9% of its strength. Meanwhile, a large region of reduced magnetic intensity has developed between Africa and South America. And this is the South Atlantic Anomaly. Over the past 5 years, however, a second center of minimum intensity has emerged southwest of Africa, suggesting that it could split into two separate cells. Well, I've seen some really good experiments done with plasma showing that when you have a strong magnetic field, you have two very solid poles. As the magnetic field gets weaker, you could end up with 4, 6, 8, and look at what the jet stream's doing. This all goes together. Now, the magnetic field is vital to life on our planet. It's a complex and dynamic force that protects living beings from cosmic radiation and charged particles from the sun. So that's in decline. A lot more radiation getting through. And scientists would say, put a lot of fear in there and say it could give everybody cancer, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like there is things that are in works that are planned on a very high scale. It's part of a natural cycle. And all the prophecies that talk about this time say that when we come out of it, we're heading into a more golden age, a better age. Robert Felix, who wrote the book, Not by Fire but by Ice, and was ahead of his time in saying we're heading into another ice age, global warming is something that's not what it appears, because ultimately we're going to lead into an ice age. He also wrote a book that talked about evolutionary leaps that happen in these time periods because we are being exposed to so much more energy from the cosmos.
Yeah, we are, and it feels like that we are making changes, our physical bodies, and I know for sure our energy bodies are, because the person in the school that I study through, they're actually changing the tuning forks to adjust to our energy bodies.
Because our energy bodies are getting denser, which means that we are, think of it in terms of we are gathering more energy into ourselves. We're gathering more life force into ourselves. We're gathering more light. And light is ultimately, it's information, is what it is. And so our DNA is changing. There's been actual, cases where they've found a third strand of DNA. And there's many, many legends that say that we were once 12-strand DNA beings that, have come down to 2-strand, but we'll head back to being 12-strand. And there's a lot of symbolism, that you could look into as well. And biblical symbolism even, 144,000, what's 12 times 12? And, 144. So there's different symbolic references, the 7 lampstands, the 7 chakras. Let thine eye be single and the body will be full of light. Well, that means waken your pineal gland. There's all these references to it. And this is the zone we're talking about. So right here in the bullseye is an area that's getting bathed with a lot more energy, a lot more radiation coming on through. So it's fascinating, the times that we live in. Massive changes underfoot. Out of live science, global carbon emissions dropped an unprecedented 17% during what? And it changes nothing. It's a start. Now we need to keep them down for the next 30 years. It's way more than carbon emissions. We don't even need to even be really using gas or oil when you get down to it. Not on the scale that we are. There's alternative energy that's been available for so long. And we will see it. We will see it in the skies, in the Space Force ships that will be unveiled, the secret space program that's been going on forever. And they'll be letting us get glimpses of technology that the Nazis had in the 40s and in the 50s that is actually antiquated already. As the reality is, we're probably 100 years at least ahead of where we think we are technologically. 9 beneficial uses for grass clippings. And at the same time, we're going back to the past with, many people are, with the way we're going to be living. Because we do need to get in touch with the earth and live simpler and reacquire some old skills and perhaps some mindsets from the past.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it would be benefit to humanity if we in some ways rolled things back.
Mm-hmm. So you could use grass clippings for compost. There's a lot of things that are obvious. Liquid fertilizer as well. They're very high in nitrogen and potassium, which is great for making fertilizer or compost tea. Worm bin bedding as well. Make a nice cozy bed for those worms. She's cringing.
Oh, yummy.
Animal bedding for sure. The rabbits will appreciate that. Animal feed. The chickens will love that. You get, you know how tough grass stains are. We could actually use that as a dye. And you could actually make paper with it as well. There's a video there that would show you how to do that. Mulch is an obvious one, as well as a weed barrier. And I just want to let you guys know, this is from the Self-Realization Fellowship, which Yogananda had basically set up in his life. And there's a global meditation event that's going to occur on Thursday, the 21st, so tomorrow. And I will put the link in there for you guys, as we can change the world if we use our intent. We are co-creators here, and we have a lot of strength within us, and boy, is it time for us to speak up and set out some positive intentions.
Positive intentions, and push back on all the control that they're trying to lay on us.
Yeah, we do not consent.
No, we don't.
Exactly. So my friends, thank you so much for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. As always, God bless and namaste.
God bless and namaste.